Her name is Ashley Lepczyk. She's the Retail Sales Development Manager at a little company you might have heard of, Google. She's been at Google for over 11 years, helping clients maximize Google's digital advertising solutions, and she co-leads the Women at Google community in Detroit. Now, some fun facts about Ashley. Oh my goodness, wait till you hear about this. She has a side hustle. Her side hustle is that she launched momcode.co, an online course to prep first-time pregnant women for motherhood. She's also traveling to Portugal next month for vacation, so if anyone has been there and has any points of interest or anything, she would love to talk to you. And last fun fact, and I'm in pain just thinking about it. Whew. She delivered her third kid at home by herself. And no, it was not planned. Wow, so we already know this girl is tough as nails. So please, everyone, nice warm welcome for Ashley Lepczyk from Google.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? Good. We got real personal real quick with me. But I wanted to share a little bit of that because I just wanted to emphasize how excited I am to be here at this conference with all of you. The personal and professional development of women is a topic that is so close to my heart. Obviously with my personal pursuits, but also as the Women at Google lead in Detroit. So I'm just so thrilled to be among such a group of powerhouse women, and want to thank the Women in Automotive board for the opportunity to be a part of this, and thank all of you. I'm so excited to get to know all of you a little bit better. Before we get started today, quick show of hands to gauge the audience. How many of you are in marketing? Great. And how many of you, if you're not in marketing, interface with customers in one way or another? Great. Almost everyone. So I think that's really important because while my topic is the future of marketing for auto, what we're really going to be covering are some basic consumer shifts that we at Google have noticed over the last couple of years. And these shifts are leading to entirely new consumer behaviors that are important whether you're marketing or whether you're interfacing with customers. However you're engaging with other people, it's really important to understand these trends in order for us to win in the future. So let's see if we can go ahead here. Great. To get started, Cheryl should know this one. Anyone know what this is? Picture of a Model T, and it's actually the first ad that ever ran for the Model T. So why is this important to the future of marketing? Well, the Model T was a car for the multitude, and its presence really changed what we considered normal behavior for American families. Right? The rise of the Model T provided mobility and independence for Americans that never quite existed before. So before its emergence, think about what the American family might do on an average weekend. Right? You were relatively homebound, either bound to your home or your village, somewhere that you could walk to or ride a horse to, right? But with the emergence of the Model T, suddenly those families had opportunities to leave their home, to travel to new homes, to engage with new people and new opportunities. And this change in behavior only progressed more profoundly with the development of the assembly plant. Suddenly, Ford was able to scale the Model T and also scale that mobility and independence across American families as their production capacity doubled year after year after year. So suddenly, what was once normal consumer behavior shifted really fundamentally, right? Why does this matter to marketing? Well, this shift in fundamental behavior that the Model T provided at the beginning of the last century is exactly what mobile technology is doing to consumer behavior today. Think about just 11 years ago, we didn't have smartphones, right? And our behavior was really, really different. And now, mobile phones and mobile technologies has completely changed the way that we act as a consumer, right? We are now able to get the answer to any question. It's literally at our fingertips any time of the day, whenever we need it, making our lives easier, more frictionless, more seamless. And this trend is showing no signs of slowing down. So let me show you a few numbers to wrap our heads around how rapidly this has evolved over the last 11 years and where we think it's going. Right now, there are over 8 billion connected devices in the world. Okay, that is more than the humans living on the earth, right? So over the last 11 years, with the introduction of the smartphone, it's taken about 11 years to reach 8 billion. In the next 2 years, by the year 2020, we expect that there will be 20 billion connected devices, right? Think about that proliferation. So how is this happening, right? Well, it's not just smartphones that are connected. Everything's becoming connected. Everything's becoming intelligent, right? I'm sure all of you live and breathe this. So let's take a little poll. Raise your hand if you still have a laptop or a desktop computer at home. Okay, great. And we've always relied on that to help us do things, right? Help us accomplish things, research things. We expect it to be smart and give us answers. How many of you now also have a smartphone? Everyone, sure. Okay, keep your hand up if you also have a smart TV at home. Great, maybe a smart watch. Okay, how about a smart thermostat? Right? All of these things around us are becoming connected and are becoming smart. My favorite story of a smart device is, I think this launched at CES a couple years ago, the smart belt, which would give you a little buzz if it was getting too tight, right? Everything around us, all of our devices are becoming connected to the internet, and that connection is just a given now. We just expect that things will be connected, and by proxy, we expect that they'll also be smart, right? And that they'll be intelligent. And they'll help us do things in a way that's more seamless and more effortless and more frictionless than in the past. So why does this matter? Well, this shift in everything around us being connected, in everything around us being smarter and more assistive, is changing our consumer expectations, right? And it's not just changing our expectations about the products that we know are smart, it's changing our expectations about everything, right? We now expect other products to be smarter and more helpful. And more important to all of you, we also expect businesses and brands and digital experiences to be that smart and easy and assistive. This is really getting to the root shift in consumer behavior that we at Google have noticed as we've witnessed the rise in mobile technology, right? And at Google, we have a motto. We say, focus on the user and all else will follow. And we really take this model to heart, and it guides the development of our products, it guides our strategy. We first and foremost look at the user or the shopper, the customer, right? And try to understand, what are they doing? What do they want? We do this by turning to our Google search data, right? We have amazing data. We're able to see, what are people searching for? How frequently are they searching? When are they searching? Where are they searching from? And we pore over this data to try to understand what's different, right? What's new? What do we need to do differently to better serve our customers? And as we've looked at these trends, we've really noticed 3 things about the consumer. If we had more than 20 minutes, I'd go into each one of these and provide research upon research to show you, to illustrate them, but I'm going to cut to the chase for you all today. What we're noticing about today's consumer is that they are more curious, more demanding, and more impatient than ever before. Again, this is back to all of the devices in our life being connected. We're able to answer all the questions whenever we want to, and therefore we're more curious, right? We also expect these devices and brands and companies to be more assistive, to know us better, to provide a personalized experience, so we're more demanding. And I think all of you can probably relate to the idea that time is the new currency, and we care so much about our time, and we're so careful with it, right? So we are more impatient than ever before. We want experiences to be quick, to be seamless. We want to get from point A to B as quickly as we can. So I'm just going to give you one stat to support each of these so that we can bring this to life a little bit more. Customers are more curious than ever. So I talked about this a little bit. We have the world's information at our fingertips. To bring this to life, I encourage you to think about maybe 15 years ago, a discussion at the dinner table. Maybe you were arguing with your spouse or a sibling about, who was it that was in that show? You can't think of the actress's name, right? What was her name again? You might go back and forth and debate it and agree to disagree because you just can't get to the answer. Today, if you had that same debate or discussion, what would you do to solve that question? You'd Google it. You'd pull out your phone and you'd research, right? Because you'd immediately know the answer. There is no debate anymore. We can answer every single question. And because we have that knowledge that we can get the answer whenever we want it to whatever question it is, we're more likely to search and search and search and research. So just one example, searches related to best vehicle for pets has grown nearly 80% in the last year, right? That's a search that probably 5 years ago even, we wouldn't really think that people would invest time in researching, but now they are. We see huge increases in searches for the best blank. Even products that were once considered really low consideration, like a toothbrush or a shower curtain or an umbrella. There's significant research around that stuff now, right? Because we know that we can find the answer. We are more curious. So as marketers, I think it's important to be thinking about, what are my customers curious about? Whether it's a place that I typically would have played in 5 years ago, now it is an opportunity to get in front of those customers and assist them in their curiosity. Next stat, so we talked about more curious and now more demanding. Because everything around us is connected, we expect it to be smart. We expect it to know us, right? This is a really interesting trend here. The overall volume of local searches without the near me term is now surpassing those that include near me. So about 5 years ago, it was a really interesting insight in our search data that more and more people were searching for car dealerships near me, right? Audi dealerships near me, Panera Bread near me, right? That was an interesting trend because we were realizing people wanted local, personally relevant results. But now the opposite is happening. And what that's telling us is consumers just expect that we're going to give them the answer near me, right? They don't even have to take the time to type it out anymore. There is that implicit assumption that Google's going to know who they are and where they are and serve them the best result. These expectations are not just of Google and big tech companies, right? That expectation that you're going to know that customer and serve them the most personally relevant experience is applied to any brand and any business. So they're more curious, they're demanding, and finally, they're more impatient, right? We absolutely see this. Quick stat, I believe it's 53% of website visits that take longer than 3 seconds to load are abandoned, right? We are not willing to wait more than 3 seconds to see a website pull up because we are so impatient. This absolutely applies in the auto industry as well. We actually saw 2 times as many virtual test drives on YouTube last year as there were test drives on actual dealership lots. So we're seeing that customers, rather than going in to spend time at the dealership test driving the car, are turning to YouTube to see, can I experience this test drive on video in a 3 or 4 minute video rather than taking the time to go into the dealership. So these consumers are more curious, more demanding, and more impatient than ever before. So what does this lead us to? Well, at Google, we believe that in order to win this newly empowered consumer, we have to be more assistive than ever before. Assistance and the concept of assisting these curious consumers in a way that's helpful, in a way that's smart, and in a way that's fast is really going to be the key to winning consumers in the future. So what does assistance mean, right? Well, simply, it means helping people get things done. I think there's often the assumption that assistance is related to the Google Assistant or an assistant like Alexa, right? It doesn't have to be that sophisticated. We don't have to be talking about virtual reality here. We just want to help people get things done more quickly and more easily. From a marketing perspective, it's really driving growth by anticipating the intent, right, behind the actions throughout the consumer journey. So how do we do this? Well, Google has a really simple 3-pillar framework to answer this question, to talk to marketers about how to be more assistive. So I'm going to share that with you. But we also all know that automotive is a little bit different, right, than other industries and a little bit more complex. So first I'm going to share you the simple Google framework, and then I'm going to share with you one that you can think about specifically for automotive. So the 3-pillar framework to be more assistive and to win these newly empowered consumers is simple. It's show up, wise up, and speed up. These pillars really anchor back to those consumer trends that we saw, right? Consumers being more curious, more demanding, and more impatient. Because they're more curious, they're researching everything all the time. So it's so important that you are there to answer those questions. This can take many different forms, right? From a digital perspective, it might mean developing new content that you never thought about before, so that you have an answer to those earlier questions. It might also mean different marketing strategies to make sure that you're present and you're showing up when consumers are answering these questions early on. So show up when consumers are researching, when they're expressing their curiosity. Second, wise up. Again, this idea that everything is connected, everything's smarter, everything's more assistive. What that means is we actually know a lot more about our shoppers than we did 10, 15 years ago, right? So it's really important to think about using that information and providing the most relevant experience for them. You might think about this, when a customer is walking into a dealership. If we know their name, we're able to pull up some information about them in our systems, right? To see the last time they've been in, whether they're a returning customer. You use what you know about that customer to personalize their experience at the dealership a little bit, right? The same can be true for digital. So it's really important to think about how can we get all that information and leverage it in a digital perspective. If someone's searching for an oil change, for instance, let's not send them to the homepage, right? Let's give them exactly what they want. And then finally, speed up. It's more important than ever to be as quick as possible in answering this question. So, of course, I mentioned the mobile site speed stat, right? Your website load time is incredibly important. But also think about how can we cut out the steps that a consumer has to go through to perform their end goal. So, show up, speed up, wise up is a great framework for winning this newly empowered consumer and to be more assistive in how we interact with customers. But, like I said, auto is a little bit more complex, right? So I wanted to suggest another 3-pillar framework for all of us to think about. Why is auto more complex? Specifically, we've got 3 tiers. Right? 3 tiers. Actually, that's right. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. That would be very assistive in this moment. So why is it a little more complex in auto? Well, we potentially have 3 tiers and 3 marketers talking to the same consumer at the same time, right? And that transparently can be a really big challenge. That means it's not just on you as a dealership or as a corporate marketer to care about what you're doing. It means realistically, we have to think more broadly than that. We have to be aware of how the other tiers and the other marketers in our company are also interacting and hopefully assisting that customer that we're trying to win. So to get us in the right mind frame, I think it's really important to think, is my brand set up to provide a seamless customer experience? And from my time in automotive, this always goes back to having an awareness of what's happening across tier, right? And I believe that in order to really, really win in this age of assistance, OEMs and dealers are going to have to come together to think about how can we integrate what we're doing across tier, or at least be aware and ensure that we have a strategy that's complementary and not combative. So the new 3-pillar framework for you guys that I'd encourage you to also think about with a broader cross-tier lens is this: organize your data, activate your message, and improve your measurement. Let me tell you what I mean by each one. First, organize your data. I mentioned that as more and more devices are becoming connected and more people are turning online for longer parts of their day, we have more information about our customers than we ever did before. But it can be really challenging to actually access that information, make sense of it, leverage it, right? So organizing your data is all about, first and foremost, just understanding what is available to you. Again, whether you're in a dealership, whether you're at an agency, whether you're in corporate, looking at corporate marketing. Understand, what data do you have? What data do your colleagues have? What platforms is that data on? And how can we think about potentially bringing that data together and trying to make sense of it? Great example of this is FCA. From a corporate perspective, they realized that in order to really be more assistive from a marketing perspective, they had to leverage data across all the tiers. So they've been working to lay the foundations to integrate their data to the same platform across corporate and their 2,300 dealers. And doing this is going to allow them to have a holistic view of the consumer journey so that they can understand how a consumer bounces back and forth between touch points with the brand, dealer 1, dealer 2, etc. And eventually they're going to get to a place where they understand, did that television ad actually drive increased dealer website visits? Or did that dealer video ad actually drive more people to show up on the lot? And hopefully be able to also connect that to in-store sales. Right? This can seem really daunting, but it is the only way to be truly assistive. So it's really important to think about starting these conversations, asking the right questions. It's a big challenge and takes a lot to solve, but we've got to start to kick off these questions and kick off the discussion. So organize your data, then second pillar is activate your message. And more specifically, thinking about the right message in the right places. A great example of this is David Auto. Some of you may know David Dodge, who sat on the FCA Dealer Council. And he and his marketing manager, Don Hobson, realized that their consumers were sick of hearing the same messages about pricing, promotion, sales events. Right? They were just being bombarded with that language in the marketplace. They wanted to do something different. They also realized that their consumers were younger and younger, and they weren't spending as much time sitting in front of the TV as they once did. So these brilliant folks decided to do two things. The first was change their message. Instead of a message or an ad around pricing and promotion and sales events, they pivoted to really talk about the dealership experience, how they appear and how they support the community, and then what a consumer might experience when they came into the dealership. And then they also decided to activate their message in different places. So they leveraged digital video to get that message in front of the right people at the right time. And by shifting this strategy from a message and a format perspective, they were actually able to have one of their best years yet, increasing net profits by 37% in a declining market. It's really incredible. So just being smarter about what is the message and where should we be activating it? And then finally, we've got Paragon Honda. So, there we go. So we have organize your data, activate your message, and the third pillar was improve your measurement. So Paragon, who's here, and you're going to hear shortly from Brian Bensack today, they noticed something really important, right? They noticed that their consumer was changing as a result of mobile. They were expecting more seamless experiences, and they realized that there was a lot of friction in the service process. So they decided to do two things. First and foremost, they launched 24-hour service, and they integrated it with a Google Assistant. So what this meant is the Paragon employee would actually come to the house and take the car that needed to be serviced from their customer and take it back to the dealership where they could service it overnight. Right? And then they would deliver that car back to the consumer by the morning, making the service experience seamless for the customer. And then they took it to the next level by integrating their business with the Google Assistant so that a consumer could literally say, okay, Google, schedule service at Paragon Honda, and everything would be taken care of for them. This is a next level integration and really taking to heart the idea of consumer assistance and creating a frictionless experience. We're going to show you a little video to tee that up, but before we do, the other thing they did from a measurement perspective is really important. So at the same time that they were addressing the consumer need and creating a frictionless experience, they also knew that they had to improve their measurement. Because those legacy KPIs that we in auto love to attach success to, the submission of lead forms, right, were a declining metric, especially on mobile, right? We talked about that impatience. Consumers are less willing to go through a long lead form and submit all their information. It takes time and it can be really cumbersome. So as an industry, we see less and less customers actually completing that form. So if that is what we historically used for success, we need to change the metric so that we can actually know what works. And Paragon took it to the next level. Rather than replacing lead form submissions with another digital KPI, they said, no, we want to measure success based on customers actually coming to the dealership, right? They started to focus on true store visits. And by doing this, they were able to find new insights about which media actually drove people into the dealership, which of course is the metric that we all care most about, more so than did they submit a lead form. And they were also able to pull out the insight that search was more than 5 times more effective than other media at driving people into that dealership and selling cars. So let's roll a quick video to give you a great overview of their changes.
Having a car in New York City can be really stressful.
Taxi cabs can be assertive drivers, perhaps.
Parking is definitely not the easiest thing.
And also, cars break down and they require maintenance.
My grandfather founded Paragon Honda. I think that he would not be able to fathom how different the industry is today.
It used to be in the 1950s when they were delivering cars to the dealership, they'd be covered and people would be waiting outside to see the cars come to the dealership. And today, we've lost that magic. Time is the new currency. You've got to move at the speed of the customer. You've got to think like a customer. What do your customers want? They won't tolerate waiting for a service. In fact, the whole notion of having to come to a dealership for service is outdated. We decided perhaps if we could pick up the customer's cars, service the car, and return the cars back to the customer, that would be a great convenience to them.
In New York City, real estate moves really fast. So if I'm going to be out getting my car serviced for 4 hours, that could be really costly.
Paragon's looking for ways to do everything and anything that a customer would do at the dealership online. We're trying to figure out how can we assist those customers on their time. And in fact, we're trying to take that to the next level, which is to do it using voice technology.
Hey Google, talk to Paragon Honda.
All right, getting Paragon Honda service.
This is Paragon Honda. Would you like to book an appointment for a car service?
Yes.
The Google Assistant is the thing of the future, and it's going to help make my business so streamlined.
It becomes completely frictionless, completely seamless, and this was a great way for us to exceed the customer's expectations. You can't afford today to put an ad on television and hope that some people see it. We use Google's marketing tools to create incredible efficiency. Our normal cost of advertising to bring somebody in the dealership and to sell them a car is about $500. Now today, using Google store visits, we've seen that through AdWords, it's costing us $100 to sell an automobile. We think that we can distribute our services using Google to help us, and I think anytime you do what's best for the customer, that ends up being what's best for the business.
I can just say, hey Google, schedule service at Paragon Honda, and I don't have to worry about it.
Just simplifies the whole process of owning a car in the city.
I think my grandfather would be very proud. He was always progressive in his time, and now we're staying progressive in our times.
Great. So in closing, I want to encourage you all and empower you all to understand that, perfection, it's about progress, not perfection. I shared with you 6 things that you can do. Show up, wise up, speed up, organize your data, activate your message, and improve your measurement. Choose one of those. Choose one to move forward to win the new customer in the age of assistance. Thank you so much.